This is the proposed layout of the massive dam Hunter Water wants to start building next year in the Williams Valley near Dungog to shore up the Hunter's water supplies. While the detailed design is now underway, this flyover shows some of the features, including a concrete-faced rock wall and slipway to be built from on-site quarries.
The dam will be safe, it will cover major seismic events and it will cover the maximum flood that we can ever experience. I think estimated to be occurring once every 10 million years.
After much community consultation, new sites for the historic Munai Cemetery and 2 local roads are also locked in.
We really appreciate the help they gave us in that, so I think we've come up with a solution that's well accepted by the community in general.
The plan includes 2 recreational areas, and Hunter Water will stock the dam for fishing in a bid to increase tourism potential.
And that'll create a lot of jobs for our area and be a great spot for us to go.
The Water Minister, on hand for today's release, believes up to 4,000 flow-on jobs could be created after construction. He thinks the community is starting to accept that the dam is crucial for the region's water security.
This is not about me today. This is about my kids and the other people's kids into the future. And we had an opportunity in this generation to do something about it. And if we didn't and they run out of water, we should be shamed.
But Queensland engineer and environmental protester Steve Posselt says it's not only a waste of customers' money, but will be a huge environmental blunder.
We've turned our country into a drain. All the watercourses are drains, and to me a river is much, much more important than that.
These activists are sowing up a storm. They're not only creating colourful flags to fly on Saturday, but stitching together plans for a Newcastle harbour blockade, even erecting billboards around the city. Their aim is to delay or stop ship movements.
There's no running away from climate change. We've got to do something about it, and responsibility starts at home. We do it here. Biggest coal port in the world, time to stop. Cut carbon now.
But it seems Newcastle Port Corporation has foiled their plans. No ships will be leaving the port or arriving during the rally on Saturday. Over the past 4 years, protesters have taken to the water in canoes, kayaks and small vessels floating across the shipping channel.
Newcastle people will continue to come out and to show their support for climate change action as long as it takes. We really want the governments to take action.
The group will still meet at Horseshoe Beach on Saturday morning. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. GPT Group has put its $650 million plan for the CBD on hold, but the Hunter Development Corporation has pushed ahead with a Newcastle City Centre renewal report for the New South Wales Government, and now it's complete. The Development Corporation appointed 2 consultancy firms to investigate future options for the CBD and rail corridor. Other local groups made submissions, including Newcastle Transport for Business Development, which is against cutting the rail line.
That's vital. It's a communication link with the biggest city in Australia. Why would you abandon that? It's there. The line is a sunk cost.
Alan Squires Group has recently set up a website, newcastledeservesbetter.com, which proposes a tram train network as an alternative to cutting the heavy rail line at Wickham. He believes it would also be a cheaper option.
On the GPT survey, it indicated that of those who wanted to remove the rail, 40% of them wanted to have light rail to replace it. Well, we're not replacing the heavy rail, but we're adding light rail.
Today, the 80-page Hunter Development Corporation report was handed over to the state government. According to a spokesperson for Minister Jodie McKay, it should be released to the public in the near future. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Her delight was obvious as she rehearsed this afternoon at the Conservatorium with her father, baritone Christopher Allen, as accompanist. Miriam Allen studied at the University of Newcastle, completing her Masters at the Conservatorium, but has been based in England for the last 7 years. Even so, Newcastle fascinates her.
Everything keeps changing. No one tells me anything. Every time I come back, there's been so much development and it's such an interesting and vibrant place to be.
The concert, already performed in Canberra, Sydney and Brisbane, brings music by Purcell and Handel from the 17th and 18th centuries.
Baroque music, very old music, but very rich and vibrant and interesting music. I think the audience will enjoy it a lot.
It was an all-Hunter heat, but Jesse Adams serves this break every day, and for the most part it showed. Duncan McNichol from Caves Beach eventually found his feet though, and what a way to do it. But Adam held off the fast finisher to keep his hopes of winning at home alive and World Qualifying Series push on track.
You don't get a lot of points for winning the event compared to the 6-star rated QS events, but it's a good building block to get me started on my QS campaign.
A great start too for Catherine Hill Bay junior Sam Lendrum. Up against James Aythorne from Mulloway, the Mid-North Coast surfer kept an eye on his rival, and with good reason. Lendrum looked the hungriest surfer, causing a minor upset.
He's one of the best surfers in small waves in Australia, and I knew that before I paddled out, and I knew that to get the better of him I'd need 2 early scores.
Merryweather's Paul Parks thought he did enough to win his heat, all but ending Surfest's wildcard hoodoo. At his first WQS event, Chris Bennett's called on some magic of his own to pip Parks late. The Gold Coaster setting up a showdown with World Tour surfer and #1 seed Adrian Buchan.
If I want to beat Ace tomorrow, I'm going to have to bring my A game for sure, but also the conditions are so bad, so not the best surfer's always going to win, which is probably in my advantage.
It was for Californian Bo Stanley in the women's, winning the last event of the day. Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
To win the State and Australian, sort of with him in mind, is important to me, and it's a goal I set at the start of this year when I sat down and looked at what I wanted to do.
The Knights have done their share of shark spotting, and Brian Smith hooked one in Isaac de Gois. Signed from Cronulla, he's left a club where things went from bad to worse.
Went through the same thing last year with Greg Bird, and when you play rugby league, you're professionals, and you deal with things like this that happen. And
on Monday night, he'll return to Shark Park and a Shire ready to shout.
I cop flak all the time, so it doesn't faze me, mate. I've got to get my head around and play footy.
Football is still some 2 months away at least for Dan Tola. In his place, Mark Tafua.
It's unfortunate what happened to Dan. Like, he's one of my good mates and teammate, and it's just like he was playing really good. He was one of the standout players in the first bit of the Titans game.
The rugby union convert made his NRL debut against the Sharks in 2007 and is bending over backwards to secure a starting spot, out to make his mark on a Cronulla outfit left cranky by this week's controversies.
They'll come out like strong just to prove a point to the media, that nothing's going to stop them from winning. But yeah, we just got to focus on our job. Like that's their problem.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
Police say curfews and lockouts have reduced alcohol-related crime across Newcastle, but revenue is down and jobs have been lost.
We have seen a downturn in trade. Newcastle is no longer a destination for entertainment. We were getting people coming from Sydney, from the Central Coast.
The Newcastle Liquor Accord is taking matters into its own hands, introducing voluntary initiatives. It wants help from council and police to crack down on people drinking on the street, especially in alcohol-free zones.
They'll be refused entry to licensed premises. So if you get out of a taxi and you're drinking, you're observed drinking, you'll be refused entry.
And if you're repeatedly intoxicated or behave antisocially,
we'll make application to the Director of Gaming and Racing and have you barred from every licensed premises in the city.
Licensees want a more visible police presence late at night to act as a deterrent. Police say they're already involved in a range of strategies, including covert operations.
Some of our work's very visible. We still get out on the street. We actually take footage of various establishments.
Licensees regularly meet with police, but the Liquor Accord is hoping for more help.
Office of Liquor, Gaming and Racing, Council and Police, as well as the community and the licensees, all need to work cooperatively to bring about social change.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
It's fair to say that there's a great deal of anger in the community at this present point because Cessnock feels that it is kicked from pillar to post.
And we feel safe, and that's the way we want it to remain. Obviously, if this is going to happen, we want to know as much about a private organisation that's going to run a centre in Cessnock as we can.
After speculation the region's jobless rate will soar this year, the latest figures from the Australian Bureau of Statistics should come as a relief. Last month, the local unemployment rate dropped from 6% to 5.8% and is now sitting almost 1% below the state average. Newcastle's rate also fell in February, but the jobless figure for the rest of the region spiked by 1.5%.
But what it means is that across our whole economy, business at the moment is going fairly well.
Peter Shinnick believes the strong resources sector has provided some insulation.
And that's feeding off into the large manufacturing base that we have here. But also we've got a number of recession-proof industries, the education, the health, the defence sectors.
Figures from the New South Wales Sheriff's Office show there were more than 100 home repossessions in the Hunter last year, although there were plenty more close calls. In a bid to stop debt getting out of control, one group is organising budget lessons, teaching people how to take control of their finances.
And also taking people back perhaps maybe a generation to live with a kind of cash amount each week so that they're budgeting within their means each week rather than trying to balance their finances through, to be honest, quite a complicated financial system.
Penny Evans, NBN News.
Be it from the bay or beside it, food is in abundance for our feathered friends in Port Stephens, well-fed residents now part of the furniture. But it's the travelling bird intriguing authorities right now beyond the marine park boundary.
What happens out there affects what happens in here and vice versa.
The mission took them through the heads to the continental shelf.
We had over 10 species of bird around the boat at one given time. We saw quite a few species of vulnerable bird. Also the threatened Gould's petrel did a flyby, which was great to see.
Others stuck around, including at one point the flesh-footed shearwater, a vulnerable species.
There's only one known nesting site of that bird, and that's at Lord Howe Island.
The offshore survey was a first for marine parks officers here in Port Stephens. They now intend to make it a seasonal event with the help of experts from the Hunter Bird Observers Club.
Next we go into a winter phase really where we expect the arrival of all the big albatrosses coming up from the Southern Ocean, so that's really exciting. We're hoping to get back out there in July.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
Well, it's the only time you can get freedom on my own, which you never do on water. I mean, I can't even get that freedom on land, you know.
It wasn't that long ago Ante Kovic was looking at a long-term deal to remain at Newcastle, but today he was packing his bags for Sweden as a slanging match with his former boss turned personal.
I've said a few things that I suppose are on people's minds. They know it just hasn't been said before. So.
Jets owner Con Constantine today declared Kovic was never welcome back.
Yeah, whether or not I'm welcome here, to be quite frank, I wouldn't go anywhere where Con's involved with. It doesn't bite me at all that he doesn't want me here.
Defending his decision to walk out just 2 games into Newcastle's Asian Champions League campaign, Kovic cited a building level of frustration at club management.
The decision I made, I think the majority of people, if they knew the whole detail, would have done it.
Kovic's departure follows that of fellow Socceroos Jade North, James Holland and Joel Griffiths, all since Christmas, and the latter is at growing odds to return from a loan deal to China. Jets management today faced other issues, that of a Players Association investigation into unpaid match payments and superannuation. The Jets said today all outstanding debts will be met in coming weeks. Jim Callanan, NBN News. A neck injury to Ben Ross and the drunken antics of Brett Seymour. The trouble at the Shire couldn't be much worse. The Knights are only concerned with the matters of football.
We were disappointed. We'd worked hard in preparation for a big start to the season, and we need to kick-start it this week. That's our main focus.
Much of it will be on the halves, with the pairing of Jared Mullen and Ben Rogers a work in progress.
The side can't be waiting around for me and Benny to strike a good combination. We need to start playing good footy sooner rather than later.
A quiet word from his halfback mentor should only help the number 7's game.
I talked to Joey after the game, and he watched the game pretty closely, and he said probably pick me times to run a bit better. So I think I ran it a bit too much early on and sort of burnt myself out a bit. So I've got to pick me times to run a bit better.
Keith Lalia is in the frame should Adam McDougall fail to recover from a virus in time for Monday, while Dan Tollar's injury allows Mark Dufour a big chance to earn a permanent spot.
They base their game on their forward pack, and they're very strong. And Mark is too, so he's going to get a good test. And if he passes that test, it'll put him in a great place for the future.
Never got to coach anyone how to put a ball over the line. We just got to really get up off the mark and whack them and turn them around and be physical and be brutal.
Adrian Buchan is no stranger to Surfest. The now world number 6 has won every junior division, but the Mark Richards Pro title will remain out of reach for another year at least. Buchan struggled to find suitable waves, eventually bundled out by Gold Coast surfer Chris Bennett.
Yeah, it's been years since I guess I've competed in waves like this, so yeah, and you know, the WQS, these guys are used to it, it's cutthroat.
But he guarantees he'll be back next year.
And it's got a lot of prestige, and hopefully in the years to come they can kind of, you know, get it back to one of the high-rated events on tour and kind of draw the top guys.
After overcoming Heath Joski this morning, Catherine Hill Bay junior Sam Lendrum will now face Bennett in the round of 16. That's a battle Lendrum always looks forward to, having shared plenty before with the surfer known as the Ibis.
Tonight I think I'll sleep pretty soundly just because I've got nothing to lose. Ibis has got nothing to lose, so should just be a lot of fun.
Meanwhile, in the women's event, former world champion Sofia Milanovic dominated her heat against Jess Dobson from the South Coast to advance to the round of 16. Rebecca Woods made a strong return to her old stomping ground, an 8.5 ride backed up with a 7.7 to outclass Tiana McNevin from the Gold Coast. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
The main aim is to show the federal government and the state government that we'd like to see a moratorium on any new coal infrastructure, coal exports and coal mines.
The School of Education opened its doors as the Newcastle Teachers College at the Junction in March 1949 and later moved to the University of Newcastle. Over that time, thousands of teachers have graduated, and today around 100 return to celebrate 60 years of teachers teaching teachers. Among the star pupils to be honoured as distinguished alumni, former Democrats leader Cheryl Kernot, John Doyle of Roy and HG fame, IOC member Kevin Gosper and Virginia Chadwick, the former Education Minister.
A bit embarrassing, really. To my mind, the distinguished graduates are the ones still out there working, the ones still teaching, not us bludgers who've taken the soft option.
The TV and radio personality completed a diploma of teaching in 1973 at Newcastle Teachers College. He taught for 7 years.
I think everyone should teach for a few years. Then a lot more people would have sympathy for teachers and what a difficult job it is.
Cheryl Kernot spent 23 years in the classroom before moving into politics. Now she's back teaching, this time at university.
I think standing in front of a classroom for many years is very good training for speaking in public, for debating ideas.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
He dropped a couple of kilos and, had headaches and stuff like that. But, it took a fair toll on everyone last week playing in them conditions.
Having learnt to surf along this strip, Philippa Anderson knew exactly what to do in the fluky surf at South Bar Beach. Sporting a winning smile as big as her potential, the Merriweather girl couldn't believe she's still alive, let alone in with a genuine chance of winning the event.
Wow, that'd be so good, that'd be really awesome.
But she knows best. There's plenty in her way, especially with the likes of Rebecca Woods also progressing to the quarters. A former winner here, the Central Coaster cruised through her heat. If she looked comfortable, one-time world champion Sofia Milanovic made it look easy. The one to beat, Anderson would be happy just to surf against her.
I saw her up at the Gold Coast a few weeks ago and I was like, whoa, she surfs so good. And if I ended up having her in my heat, that'd be so good.
Philippa's brother Craig almost made it through as well, but was rubbed out by Michael Spencer in the men's draw. The Nords Wharf lad through to the quarters after winning their heat, while Sam Landrum ended the giant-killing run of Chris Bennett's, but only just. A day after Bennett's beat number 1 seed Adrian Buchan, the Catherine Hill Bay board rider got the goods on his mate, winning by just 0.5.
They can't justify that to me, and they can't justify not feeding or giving my son something to drink.
Merewether, a surfing magnet now immortalised in bronze.
You can surf Merewether anytime, any tide.
In any swell, any wind.
And as we saw at Surffest this week, any size. But while waves failed to reach new heights in this year's tournament, take a look at these pictures from 2006. Big and barrelling Merewether magic.
If you want to go surfing, there's always a wave there, and it's really created by those rock platforms. They create the quality waves at Merewether.
Which is why, as of today, it will be known as a National Surfing Reserve. Victoria's Bells Beach was the first.
It means that the surf break is protected, and we as the committee and the community have a voice on the table.
Now that it's declared a reserve, that management committee looks after it.
The declaration covers not only the shore, but 500 metres out to sea as well, between Dixon Park and Burwood beaches.
It's got a sense of real spiritual weight to it. Like a church, a cathedral, we consider this to be a hallowed ground for surfing.
A reputation now being used to sell Merewether as part of an official surfing trail up the north coast, and the city's favourite surfing son doesn't mind sharing it.
You know, it's great to know that in 50 years or 100 years' time, you know, the beach behind us is protected and other people will be able to enjoy those waves.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
It's the sort of day every junior Newcastle surfer dreams of, and Philippa Anderson had all of Merewether behind her today. Having beaten three-time winner Rebecca Woods on her way to the final, the 17-year-old hardly looked a girl under pressure. Any nerves wiped away with a first-up effort, as she rode a wave of confidence to take an early lead. A national under-16s champion, a senior title win was only a dream a few days ago, yet with each ride it moved closer to reality, and the whole beach could sense that. But what a thrilling finish. Dimity Stoyle had beaten former world champ Sofia Milanovic to reach the decider and almost stole it on the last wave. Surviving that to score a fairy tale win, Anderson has also claimed a rich piece of local surfing history.
A bit of tears came out actually, because this is like the best result I've ever had, and to win it here with like family and friends, it's really amazing.
And what a story to tell at school tomorrow. World Championship Tour board rider Drew Courtney was left chasing more than just his board in the MR Pro. Snapping a leg rope, he then banged his board on the rocks as Travis Logie simply racked up the rides. Known as one of the best small wave riders in the world, the South African was in his element as he continues to work his way back after a serious knee injury.
I've been coming here for so many years, and just to come and surf a heat while Mark Richards is watching you, it's a huge honour, so I'm so stoked to take it out.
Merewether locals got their break back today. On John Parade, remnants of Surffest remain, but while demountables come and go, organisers say the tournament isn't moving.
Merewether's our home. It's a national surfing reserve now, something we're very proud of. Home of Mark Richards, and it's got the best wave that the athletes need.
Over the longer term perhaps, but this week's swell was consistent with the prize money, down on previous years given surfers are paid in US dollars and the lower exchange rate meant there was less to offer.
So is it a fair enough statement to say that the only way you'll increase prize money if there is an increased sponsorship?
That's a fair statement.
Without such investment, the likes of Slater and Fanning won't attract the crowd Surfest once did, although Warren Smith maintains the focus has been to make it more than just a sporting event.
We've rebirthed the event here at Merewether. We've found that the Wine and Waves is a very successful formula for us.
On the subject of success, today the Queen of Surfest was the toast of classmates at St Philip's Christian College.
Before I even walked in the gate, everyone was like, "Oh, congratulations." I was like, "Oh, how do you know?"
How could they not? News of the 17-year-old's win to become the first homegrown surfer spread through the city and even to Tasmania, where her brother Craig and father were at another surfing competition.
My dad was so happy, I'm pretty sure he was crying, so it was really good.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
The audit was carried out in 2 shifts, one in daylight and one after dark, and turned up used condoms and wrappers, syringes and even a baby's nappy. The Islington Residents Group says it's what it expected, but in far greater quantities.
We were very disappointed to find just how bad things really are. We expected to find a lot of condoms and needles and drug paraphernalia, but the amount that we found was pretty shocking.
Newcastle Council will use the information collated during the audit, including insufficient street lighting, to address street prostitution as well as the suburb's general presentation.
When it's finalised and distilled down into a meaningful document, it will provide a plan to move forward. And some of those things that need to be done that have been identified can be fixed almost straight away.
Meantime, the group's solicitor is still waiting for the council and state government to respond to a letter of demand which alleges neglect.
This Thursday will represent 3 weeks where we've heard not even a letter, not a phone call. It's almost as if both levels of government are inviting us to take legal action.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News. As a paramedic and emergency nurse, Jodie Adams and Sally Ann Bowen are in the business of saving lives, and they say those skills are desperately needed in Vietnam. They hope to reduce the death and injury caused by the 15,000 road accidents every year through a series of first aid training workshops.
People obviously rely on their health to be able to work, and if we teach people in the pre-hospital field how to care for somebody who has had a serious accident, we're hoping that will aid their recovery, and so then they will be able to return to work.
Deborah and Paul Hilton have been running community programs in Vietnam for 10 years, and they say education is the key to improving healthcare in the country.
When there's an accident victim, they just pick them up and take them to the hospital. They don't do any first aid on the road. They just pick them up and take them. We thought they need education.
Jodie and Sally Ann will also establish a program to help train doctors and nurses at the desperately under-resourced Kuntur Hospital.
They have very few facilities. They have people sleeping in the corridors. They have people who simply go without treatment.
They'll assess the facility's needs during this visit and return with a small group in November to implement the program. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
New recruit Ben Rogers appears to have paid a hefty price for the team's first-up loss at the Gold Coast. Earlier in the week, the coach gave no hint what was ahead when asked how long the halves pairing would have to find a working rhythm.
I haven't even thought about that sort of thing. We've got a big squad. We've got a good squad. We've got a number of players that we can call upon if we need them and if we feel it's the appropriate time for them.
The last-minute switch means Scott Giroux returns to the number 7 jumper and Jared Mullen back to his more favoured role of 5/8.
5/8's also good as well because you get to stand wide and pick your times at running that.
Keith Lalia gets his first start in the top grade since June last year. He comes in to replace Adam McDougall, who's failed to recover from the combination of that heat-sapping match on the Gold Coast and a chest infection.
Took a fair toll on my body last week playing sick.
No dramas for James McManus, who'll line up for his 50th consecutive NRL match tonight, a reward for both his durability and performance. The Scottish-born Darwinite knows it'll be no party.
They are a team that's pretty hard to score against and put big points scores on, so we'll be looking to throw a few things and definitely match them physically.
Hugh Gordon is a former director and CEO of Wet Investments Limited. It was placed into voluntary administration in 2005. He was declared bankrupt in 2007, and as of today, the deed of arrangement was terminated.
The creditors of the company decided to put Wet Investments into liquidation.
Be it brave or otherwise, Mr Gordon attended that meeting, fronting the mum and dad investors who trusted him with their money.
I had 22 years of super and Kerry had 25 years of super.
As many as 200 creditors are affected. Ed Wozniak and his partner alone invested $573,000. So far, they've recovered just $38,000.
We're really sort of living from week to week.
The liquidator has been instructed to consider legal action to squeeze what he can, but offered these words to creditors. As for Hugh Gordon, the Lake Macquarie businessman is due to reappear in court on the 20th of April. He's facing 7 charges relating to fraud and misusing his position. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
Koalas are now a threatened species with only a few hundred left in Port Stephens. According to council data, since European settlement, 75% of koala habitats have been destroyed in the area, while volunteer carers are constantly rescuing them after car accidents and dog attacks. But the local council has been applauded by the CEO of the Australian Koala Foundation. She says this document is a model for other councils.
Port Stephens has got all the ingredients, a great koala plan of management, people who are committed to that plan, a lot of koala people, and planners that really get it.
The plan helps to conserve habitat and places constraints on developers.
There would be cases where some haven't been approved. There'd be cases where they've had to make considerations for the habitat.
And while council is working hard on its image as the koala capital of New South Wales, today Mayor Bruce McKenzie told the meeting he supported future development and wanted more land opened up for housing.
I think sometimes we go overboard with the koala thing.
I know the Mayor is very pro-development, but what I would say to him is let's find sustainable development.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
We had a 300-tonne and a 250-tonne crane lifting great slabs of rail track off and onto the line.
Almost 10 years to the day, it was a rare and rather special sight to see a cruise ship like the Oceanic Odyssey docked in Newcastle. Fast forward to 2009 and the cruise industry is booming in the Hunter. The last visit was from 5-star liner the Millennium, which brought 2,000 cashed-up passengers. And today marked another big step.
We welcome the news that P&O Carnival Australia are looking at base porting in Newcastle.
P&O has so much confidence in the port and the popularity of cruising that the Pacific Sun will call Newcastle home from September next year.
For the first time, we've got a line that's prepared to base itself out of the region for 3 months. That's new. It's going to bring additional benefits to local businesses, but also it's going to stimulate tourism to the region.
It's expected the Pacific Sun will contribute $3 million to the local economy.
We'd be then looking at supplying the ship which is one of the great parts about home basing. We'd end up with stevedoring activity, there'd be food, beverages.
The Minister for the Hunter, Jody McKay, says commercial negotiations haven't yet taken place regarding the use of the port facilities or where the ship may dock. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
After being overlooked for round one, all Scott Giroux wanted was a chance, and didn't he make the most of it last night?
I want that jersey, that number 7 jersey. I want to have it for the next 10 years if I can, but it all just starts taking it game by game, and hopefully if I can just keep performing week in and week out, Smithy will keep picking me.
Just try and take it off him. Called into the team late, he scored a try and set up another. And boasted a strong kicking game to boot on a night they all had to dig deep. He'll now lead the side from 7, given Jared Mullen's broken rib, which came from a Corey Patterson hit, and the half has an eye out for more friendly fire.
Yeah, I think he wiped out Mullo there to crack his ribs, and after Houso scored, Corey come in and put a bit of a shoulder on him too, so I'll be sidestepping him if I score a try.
Houston with his own dramas to worry about.
It's always good to sing the team song the first time, and I feel a bit bad saying it, but I don't even know all the words.
Houston will have big shoes to fill, with Steve Simpson now sidelined for 2 to 3 weeks with a hamstring tear.
Give it a couple of days to sort of settle down and get an injection in it and start the recovery process, mate, and hopefully it heals quicker.
Adam McDougall and Ben Rogers will return this week to play the Rabbitohs, with George Nadira grabbing a spot on the bench.
I'll go back to the 1960s, I guess, when we were playing in Newcastle Maitland, a strong rivalry.
These things that celebrate the history and provide a connection to what's happened before us.
Brendan Clark reckons riding bulls for money is like living the dream. If that's the case, you'd hate to hear about his nightmares. Now a much-respected rider on the richest bull riding circuit in the world, Clark is rounding up an elite bunch to bring home in May for the event named in his honour.
I've planned on this year bringing, the very best American bull riders, I can back to Newcastle, just so, everyone can get to see them riding in the flesh.
It follows the success of last year, a night he'll long remember for some incredible personal rides, but also for a narrow half-point loss in the team's event. With 4 Australians now ranked in the top 40 in the US, Clark hopes they can pull off a rare feat and roll the best in the world.
There's never been an Australian team to beat the Americans or the rest of the world at their own game. I want to be part of that team that beats them, and I want everyone to be able to be there to watch it, because I know that we can do it this time.
Siam's multiple national champion Ben Jones will be in the Australian team looking for that piece of history in late May at the Newcastle Entertainment Centre. Jim Callanan, NBN News.